Ozzy Trapilo once again got the start for the Chicago Bears, and this guy once again looked pretty damn good out there. Now, it wasn't perfect, but he did have a lot of really high quality wins, and some of what we're seeing on tape from this guy actually makes me feel like this guy has the potential to become a really, really good left tackle in the NFL. And we're going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about why this guy had such a great game. Now, he did have losing snaps. It wasn't perfect, but he did have the task of trying to block Micah Parsons, which Micah Parsons beats up on some of the league's best veteran left tackles, and this guy's a rookie. But we did see some good things. On this one here, he obviously ends up losing to Parsons. Parsons is going to just straight up beat him with the hezzy move from the outside back to the inside. And you just see how quickly Parsons is able to beat Ozzy Trapilo on this one. Now keep in mind, this was the second play of the game. Micah Parsons did not beat Trapilo a whole lot this game. Now, he did have some winning reps. I'm not going to make it sound like Trapilo straight shut this guy down. But as the game went on, he got better and better and better. And we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about some of the flashes that this guy showed us. Keep in mind, that last play you guys just watched came back. It was a penalty. It was a holding penalty. And this right here was 3rd and 15. It's going to be an incomplete pass. The Bears go 3 and out. They punt the football. But on the very next drive, the Bears put together a pretty nice drive. I'm going to show you guys this first rep here. It's going to be a 7-yard run play. Watch the block here by Trapilo. He's going to double team, get up to the linebacker, and he does a really good job with the movement. To me, this is a really, really nice job, being able to get that linebacker out of there. But even the double team block and making sure that the tight end here is able to actually get the block on the defensive lineman. Now, if you guys look closely at the defensive lineman here, he is aligned to the inside of the tight end, which that tells us that is his run fit. He has to stay within that gap. Now, this run is literally going to hit in that same gap, and the play does not work without Trapilo first double teaming this defensive lineman, allowing the tight end to get in front of this guy before he ends up getting up to the linebacker. Watch the double team and how it's going to impact the tight end and allows the tight end to kind of get past number 55 here. That's a really good block right there by Komet. Does not work without the double team. And then, of course, love how he gets to the linebacker, and then look at the drive. Look at him move this guy out of that gap right there. That's a phenomenal job, truth be told. And the gap was there, man. I'm surprised this one only picked up 7 yards. This could have potentially hit for a lot more yards, if not a touchdown. The safety ends up coming downhill. The cornerback takes the outside gap. That block right there by Trapilo really does set this play up to potentially hit for a touchdown. You do see the running back ends up getting tripped, and he ends up falling. I'm going to just go back to the all 22 angle. Look at this. Safety comes down. This should have been a touchdown, truth be told. Yeah, look at that. That's a touchdown. There's no one out here to the right. If DeAndre Swift gets through here cleanly, which he obviously doesn't, that's a touchdown right there. Obviously, not a huge deal. Still a 7-yard run. And again, just a really good block by the rookie tackle, right? This is some of what the flashes are that we're seeing from this guy. And keep in mind, the Green Bay Packers have a really, really good defensive line. You got a 2nd and 7. This time Trapilo has an out block on Micah Parsons. Essentially, he just needs to make sure Parsons does not beat him to the inside, and he does a really good job. Just the way he sets up to make sure Parsons is unable to beat him. You can see Parsons is trying to jump to the inside within this play. Slow it down, it'll be a little bit easier to see. Watch Trapilo as he sets up to the inside of Parsons. Parsons initially takes the outside gap. Watch Michael Parsons try to come back to the inside. Right there. And Trapilo does a great job mirroring that movement and not allowing Parsons off the block. About 4.5, 5 yards on this one. This was 2nd and 7. It's a pretty nice job right there. Alrighty, guys, let's go ahead and talk about this play right here. Ozzy Trapilo is going to actually miss the block here on Carl Brooks. Brooks, a really good defense tackle. He's a penetrator. He gets upfield. And the play ends up losing 4 yards on this one. And I want to talk about it. Now, this play is obviously going to be an end around, or you can say it's a handoff or whatever you want to say. But the depth at which this happens is only about a yard behind the line of scrimmage. Now, here's the thing with this play. This is basically being blocked the way you would a power run concept. The front side offensive linemen all block down. The backside guys are going to essentially pull out in front. And without this block right here being made, you're not going to be able to pick this play up. In fact, not only is the block not made, but you can see Carl Brooks is going to end up jumping that gap and penetrating that gap. To me, Trapilo has to do a better job on this one. Now, that's a very hard block to make, right? And the fact that DJ Moore gets the ball just 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage, that's very, very difficult. Even on a regular power run to the right where the running back actually gets the ball, these guys oftentimes are penetrating the gap, but it's the seal block that ends up stopping them from making the play. Again, very difficult, not a huge deal. Let's get into the next rep. Alrighty, guys, check this next rep out here. Just a really good job by the left tackle to process the information that's kind of happening and to pick this up. I mean, the quickness that he processes this is really, really, really impressive. In my opinion, this is what makes Ozzy Trapilo a good offensive lineman with a ton of upside. On this play here, he's going to have Rashawn Gary right off the right edge here. Gary's going to be lined up in the wide 9, and that's done on purpose, right? You put this guy way out here. As soon as this guy gets out of his stance, his eyes have to get way out here towards the right of the screen, right out towards Rashawn Gary. Look at that head turn way out towards Gary. I know it's hard to tell because Gary's right off the screen at this point, but you can tell this is a nicely designed defensive line game. And Ozzy Trapilo doesn't know that the reason why Gary's so far out here is because they're trying to attack you, right? They're trying to get Carl Brooks to get to that inside shoulder of the left tackle on this one. And then Gary's going to start up field, but he's going to quickly come right underneath that. And I love the fact just how quickly this guy picks this up. Look at that process. Look at him get over to Brooks, and then he shuts this guy down. Look at the hands. That's a really good job right there by the left tackle. Not only does he process this play, but he picks it up perfectly. He picks up his guy at the perfect moment, shuts him down. Just a really, really good overall rep by Trapilo. Alrighty, guys, we are now in the second half. There's a couple of nice reps that I want to show you guys from this side as well. Trapilo does a pretty good job. He has Michael Parsons lined up to the outside. You know, I do like the fact that Ben Johnson's plan coming into this game was that we're going to help Trapilo as much as possible.
Now, before we go forward, I want to take a quick second to talk to you guys about today's sponsor, Factor, and talk to you guys about how Factor has essentially changed my life. If you guys know me, about 6 months back, I started to exercise daily. I started to get into wellness and health. And one of the big things when it comes to wellness and health is obviously nutrition. Nutrition is one of the key parts of essentially being healthy. And, you know, for me, one of the difficult parts with this element of, you know, my overall health was the fact that I already worked, 10 hours every single day. I have children, so I spent, parts of my day with my kids. It was always difficult for me to be able to find that time to cook. And it's not just cooking, right? There's prepping, there's cooking, there's cleaning. Then you got to sit down and actually eat the food, right? Every day I was spending so much time being able to having to prepare and cook food that I just wasn't able to get all my work done. This is where Factor helped bridge the gap. Factor brings you fresh, never frozen food, high quality ingredients straight to your door. No more prepping, no more cooking, no more cleaning. Factor has you covered in that. And listen, I don't just eat whatever, right? I don't eat junk food. I don't eat ultra processed food or prepackaged frozen food, which is why I'm a huge believer in a company like Factor. Factor has over 175 ingredients banned, so you're not going to get refined seed oils. You're not going to get ultra processed foods and refined sugars. You're not going to get artificial colors. Factor really does believe in your health and wellness, and Factor has well over 100 rotating weekly options, so you're never going to get sick of what Factor is sending you. And they can accommodate multiple diets. If you don't eat pork, if you're vegetarian, or if you don't eat dairy or animal products at all, maybe you're vegan, they have you covered in every single one of these aspects. Now, if you're like me and you're ready to get your time back, if you're ready to start eating good quality food, head over to factor75.com. Use my code SCOUTFB50 and Factor is going to give you 50% off. Plus, they're also going to give you free breakfast for an entire year. This is a special offer, so make sure you guys head over to factor75.com. Use my code SCOUTFB50. With that being stated, huge shout out to Factor for sponsoring this video. Let's get right back into the content.
I do like the fact that Ben Johnson's plan coming into this game was that we're going to help Trapilo as much as possible. You guys can see that the tight end's going to be lined up to help Trapilo by essentially influencing Michael Parsons. Parsons cannot go to the right side of the tight end here and get a speed rush because the tight end would essentially chip you. You see the tight end get that right hand out there just to make sure Parsons is not able to get upfield. That's a pretty good plan to come into given the fact that you have a rookie going up against Parsons. But Trapilo had some nice reps. He mirrored Michael Parsons' movement pretty well. Here's one of those examples. I know Parsons starts close, but Parsons does end up trying to swipe Trapilo, and this move works, right? Parsons oftentimes is able to swipe guys' arms. Trapilo does a great job staying right on top of that. More than that, Parsons is going to end up going from the right arm swipe that doesn't work. He's going to come back with the left arm at the end of this. That doesn't work either, right? Trapilo just stays right on top of this. He shuts it down. That's a really good job right there by the tackle. Alright, guys, check this play out. The slide here is going to be towards the right. Center is going to end up taking number 96 here. Left guard, left tackle are going to block out. Left guard has Michael Parsons. Left tackle is going to pick up 24, who's actually coming on a blitz. Keep in mind, all this has been identified by the center. This is essentially going to be the protection plan on this one. I want you guys to keep an eye on Trapilo and just think about what he goes through within this play. All right, think about how he processes this and how he's, checking Micah Parsons, checking the slot corner that's blitzing, going back and forth, and then he ends up settling on the guy that's coming off the edge. So think about this play here. First and foremost, he's going to take on Micah Parsons. All right, he has the help initially to the outside. He's going to get the hands on Parsons. Parsons slips. He lets go of Parsons, gets out here towards the guy out here. But look at him make sure that Parsons is not unblocked, right? He makes sure to check this before finally getting off of it and then coming way back out here towards the slot corner. To me, that's a good job processing. And again, we're slowing this down, but in real time, just look at how quickly this happens. And Michael Parsons fast as hell, right? That's not, a guy like Tyree Wilson who's slow. This is Michael Parsons we're talking about. And the processing that we're seeing from Ozzy Trapilo, this is something you can actually build on, right? This is something that not every single rookie offensive lineman has. Even some veterans struggle with the quickness and the speed of the game. Trapilo's kind of natural. He kind of already has that in his tape. You have another really nice rep once again by the left tackle. The movement is something that I think Trapilo does a pretty good job at. When I evaluate offensive linemen, by far the biggest factor if they're going to be good or not is going to be movement. How do these guys move? How do they match the speed of these edge rushers? Trapilo does a pretty good job right now, right? You can see the footwork on tape. He does a pretty good job being able to match number 55 here. And he does a pretty good job to make sure number 55 does not get to the quarterback. If you guys watch this play here, the fact that number 94 and 97 slant to the left the way they do, that opens it up for 55, right? That opens it up for the left tackle to have to block a man in space. And he does a pretty good job. Although 55 jumps to the inside, and at this point right here, 55 has the angle at Caleb Williams, you're going to see that the left tackle is going to end up doing a great job recovering. You're going to see him with the footwork, just gets right back on that. I love the latch right there as well. With the right hand, Trapilo is going to end up latching on to number 55. And this is something Trapilo actually did a lot in college. That right hand, he hasn't latched into the shoulder pad. If you guys slow it down and really try focusing in on that right hand, he ends up locking it into the inside of the chest. Again, this is something a lot of offense tackles do. It allows you to stay on top of guys and move with guys. And on this one, he obviously does a really good job. Ends up shutting it down. Quarterback gets out of there. 26 yards on this one to Komet. Really nice play. Let's get into the next snap. Now, obviously, I've already pointed out multiple times that this guy has a really good process, how he recognizes the game, how he's able to process that information. He does a really good job, and this play right here is just another example of this. When you run inside zone as offensive linemen, there's rules of who you're blocking based off of alignment, based off of which guy, even post-snap, which guy essentially ends up in your gap. Based on those rules, you have to pick up a specific player. And look at this play right here where no one comes in his gap. So essentially for him, it's going to be whichever player ends up in the inside gap. And notice how no one ends up in that inside gap, but he also has to make sure Micah Parsons doesn't cross his face. And look at him look for work on this one. He goes back and forth and he's not sure who to pick up. And it's not that he's not sure. It's just he's processing which guy is his responsibility. Now this was 2nd and 5 and the play picks up about 4 yards. To me, I loved how this guy processes. You can just tell he's very smart. He reads, he recognizes, he knows his responsibility. And don't overlook, when you're running inside zone or outside zone or wide zones, power, these different types of run plays have different rules based off of how guys are kind of lined up, right? You have to block different guys depending on where people are aligned and depending on where people end up post snap, right? Your blocking assignment could technically change. And Trapilo does a really good job processing information. And to me, that's a trait you cannot overlook. Check this next rep out. You're going to have a one-on-one between Trapilo and that defensive end, number 55. And Trapilo does a really good job on this rep. You're going to see him go with the underneath hand technique. And I love the fact that he's not leaning into this guy. One of the things that Braxton Jones did that got him in trouble a lot was he got caught leaning a lot. And the thing, if you're a leaner, is as soon as number 55 here, I'm going to slow it down so you guys can see it. As soon as Trapilo makes contact with this guy, watch 55's left arm here knock the right arm of Trapilo. So you're going to see that right there. Number 55 is going to remove the leverage that Trapilo has. As a leaner, you lean forward, you get caught leaning. 55 has a clear shot at the quarterback. But Trapilo's not leaning, right? He has a really good base. The foundation, everything looks great. He just brings the hands right back up and he ends up right on top of 55 once again. That right there is a really, really solid overall rep by Trapilo. The footwork's really nice, the hand placement's really nice, he's not leaning, the base, he gets the hands right back up to 55, and he shuts it down. It's a really good rep right there by the left tackle. On this one, it is an incomplete pass, but really, really like some of what we're seeing from this guy on tape. The Chicago Bears right now are down 7 points, and there's about 2 minutes and 45 seconds left. This is a moment in which we know it's going to be a passing situation for the Bears, and Trapilo does a pretty good job on a number of these reps. On this one here, he does a good job on Rashawn Gary. You know, Rashawn Gary has good movement, and on this one, he's going to try to set up Trapilo to the inside. He's going to start up field, he's going to swipe and try to beat this guy to the inside, and it doesn't work. Trapilo does a great job with that right hand. He ends up catching Gary. Gary ends up coming all the way back to the inside. Trapilo kind of stays out there, picks up whoever naturally comes to him. That's a really good job right there by Trapilo to take on Gary. You got another nice rep. This time he does have the influence by the tight end, so 55 cannot go to a speed rush. 55 does try an outside move. Trapilo does a good job once again not leaning into it. 55 ends up falling. Again, just a really good job once again by the young left tackle. You're going to have a zone run to the left of the screen. Watch the elite reach block here on Carl Brooks. I mean, it does not get better than that block right there. And this one picks up about 7 yards. A really, really nice job if you guys ask me. Trapilo looked really good based off the tape that I've watched over the past 3 weeks. Now, as we wrap this video up, I'll just go ahead and throw this out there. I think Trapilo has real potential to be a really good left tackle. And although he processes really, really well, I do think he has to get a little bit stronger. And then I think he needs to just continue to develop the little things. And of course, as a rookie, you're not going to be perfect in your first year. But based off of watching guys like Armand Membu and Kelvin Banks, Ozzy Trapilo looks like a really good tackle relative to those guys and kind of where they're at. I like what I've seen from this guy's tape. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider subscribing. And I'll see you guys next time with another video.